the 25th of July, both Moscow and St. Petersburg are under attack from ballistic missiles. Collapse in Moscow and St. Petersburg. More than 600 drones are attacking Russian cities.
It's just terrifying.
At this very moment, airports all across Russia are in chaos. Sheremetyevo, Pulkovo, Vnukovo, hundreds of flights cancelled. Screaming, crash, panic. It all started with powerful explosions. Ballistic trails flared up in the sky. Eyewitnesses are talking about terrorist attacks. The propaganda is silent. Another one just hit. Oh, Iskander. Somewhere nearby, it's all happening around us. Logistics have collapsed, the economy is suffering. Hundreds of thousands of Russians are trapped without communication or transportation. Muscovites are stranded in airports without power, communication, or internet. Moscow, St. Petersburg, and 30 other cities across Russia. For more than a day now, without pause, we have been attacking Moscow and the regions.
Look at that smoke. It's a disaster.
Top analyst Oleksandr Demchenko is already on air with his analysis. What is this? Destabilization from within, an attack from outside, or retribution for the war?
Thank you, Dasha. Thank you to our most beloved, most valued audience.
Breaking news, friends, aviation collapse in Russia and Putin has started purging his own inner circle. There are large-scale crackdowns all across Russia. The deputy head of the National Guard is in pre-trial detention and Zolotov could be next. Those who just yesterday were commanding the Russian army are now under attack. Paranoia is intensifying. And with it, explosions inside the country are increasing. Everything is blowing up. Warehouses, airfields, tankers, and logistics. In Borisovlebsk, there was a strike on the airfield. In Ustuga, a tanker is on fire. There's a chemical leak. And it's sank to the bottom. Vladivostok is under attack. The Pacific Fleet. Military facilities have been destroyed. Vnukovo, Sheremetyevo, Pulkovo total collapse there. In just 2 days, more than 2,000 flights have been disrupted across Russia, with heavy blows to Russian aviation. Everything is blowing up. We'll discuss all this with top analyst Oleksandr Demchenko right now. Sasha, welcome.
Hello, Dasha. Hello, everyone.
Sasha, where would you like to start?
Shall we start with the collapse? All right, let's start with the collapse. What amazes me right now, because against the backdrop of collapsing airports, Russia is losing tens of billions a day, of course. Tens of billions, that's Russia's losses every single day, because absolutely everything across Russia has come to a halt. Don't think, friends, that it's only Pulkovo in St. Petersburg that's shut down, or just Sheremetyevo, Domodedovo, or Vnukovo in Moscow, or the Moscow region. Don't think that. Here's the situation. All of Russia has come to a standstill. The entire airport infrastructure of the Russian Federation is collapsing. But that's not the most important thing, Dasha. The most important thing is, why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? At the same time, they're also jamming communications. They're afraid of Ukrainian drones. They believe that this way, electronic warfare systems will be able to suppress them Ukrainian drones. And they're jamming communications across the entire territory of Russia. Not just in the capital, not just in key cities, but across all of Russia. Right now, they're jamming communications in Kamchatka. What conclusion do I draw from this? Kamchatka is the base of the Russian Federation's Pacific Fleet. They are probably preparing for a massive attack right now. So we've come to this surprise from Maliuk, or rather the surprise from the Ukrainian special services, because it's likely that an attack on Kamchatka, on the Pacific Fleet of the Russian Federation, is about to happen. It's not for nothing that they're jamming communications there right now, preparing electronic warfare systems and setting up all sorts of anti-drone systems in Kamchatka near the Pacific Fleet. I don't know if there will be strikes, if ships of the Pacific Fleet will be sunk or something like that. But the fact that they're running around panicking and that they're worried after the strike on the Santanya Bay, when a huge number of ships, a huge amount of equipment, and a huge number of personnel were destroyed. After not only the commander of the 155th Brigade, the very same criminal brigade that was killing people in Busha, Hostomel, and Irpin was eliminated in the Kursk region, but also the deputy commander of the Russian Navy, the Navy of the Russian Federation, Mikhail Gudkov, was killed. And after that, they significantly reinforced all defensive measures in Kamchatka and are preparing for a large-scale operation. Moreover, as I said last time, and I maintain now, in the next 10 days, one of the largest special operations by Ukraine is likely to begin, and I am more than certain that Moscow will soon be set ablaze. This will be one of the most devastating strikes on Moscow in the near future, friends. That's why we need to closely monitor everything that's happening right now. And the fact that they are deliberately shooting down Ukrainian drones with their anti-missile systems exclusively over airport territories only means one thing. It's not just Sheremetyevo, Domodedovo, and Vnukovo that will burn. Purkovo in St. Petersburg will burn as well. Not just that, they will deliberately launch massive anti-missile strikes and shoot down drones exclusively over airport territories in order to kill as many people as possible, so that later they can start their filthy mobilization, but this time for free, without contracts.
The most interesting part is what comes next. The hardest hit was Pulkovo, 100 and 400 flights delayed, Sheremetyevo hundreds, losses amounting to 20 billion rubles, which is more than $250 million in damages. And during these days, there is the murder, suicide, or liquidation of the former Minister of Transport, who was dismissed by Putin. And here's where it gets really interesting what's going on. So, against the backdrop of the aviation collapse, for which Putin is to blame because he started the missile and drone terror, he eliminates his own minister. What is actually happening?
The collapse has nothing to do with it. Look, Dasha, the collapse here has nothing to do with it. The question is this. Vladimir Putin retroactively dismissed his Minister of Transport, Starovoytov. Right after he supposedly, in quotes, committed suicide, he killed himself with an award weapon, with an honorary pistol. He killed himself right in the Moscow region, in Odintsovo. Now let's think about it, what actually happened. So Minister Starovoytov, who previously headed the Kursk region, who had previously profited from defense construction projects, profited from an entire region, and then moved on to the Ministry of Transport to become the head of the Russian Federation's Ministry of Transport, was in charge of everything. All the cargo transfers from China, all logistics, all railways, all civilian transport, all airports, all aviation that directly handles exports, imports, all trains for export, import, and so on. He oversaw everything. This is just the juiciest, most delicious slice of the Russian economy. Sanctioned goods, goods under sanctions, the black and gray market from China, from Turkey, Azerbaijan, from Central Asia, he controlled it all. Attention, this person owns over $1 billion in real estate in Moscow, in St. Petersburg, in the Leningrad region, in the Kursk region, and directly in the city of Kursk. And this person supposedly committed harakiri. What? Is he an idiot or something? Everything was going perfectly for him. He has $1 billion. He has a huge amount of money stashed away. He has a mistress. He has a beautiful, sweet life. He's a minister. What kind of fool would take and shoot himself with a Putin-awarded pistol? He couldn't care less about Putin's pistol. I'm more than sure he didn't even know how to use it, Dash. So what actually happened? I'll tell you. He was killed by Vladimir Putin, who gave the order to his security forces to take this guy out. Officially, they'll quietly tell everyone this version. The reason is that he was stealing. But listen, friends, the one who steals the most in Russia is Putin. Putin is the richest in Russia, and maybe not just in Russia, but in Europe as well. And maybe not just in Europe either. The real reason is completely different. A redistribution of financial flows has begun in Russia.
Yes.
A redistribution of financial flows has started in Russia. So Starovoytov was a protege of the Rotenberg brothers, Putin's closest oligarchs, who recently built him a palace in Jelenji. But the new acting Minister of Transport, who was asked on the very same day, on the day Starovoytov was dismissed, was asked, "How was your day? It must have been a tragic one." He replied, "At least it was interesting." So this Nechayev Andrei Nikitin is the new Minister of Transport. He is a protege of the Kovalchuk brothers. The Kovalchuk brothers, with the mediation of the security services and in coordination with Vladimir Putin, removed not just an unnecessary witness who laundered money in the Kursk region and through whom the generals ran their shady schemes which everyone knew about, not just the person who helped the Rotenbergs launder money during the war. One of the most important nodes of corruption within the Russian elite has been eliminated. And all that money, along with the control over all transportation in Russia, air, sea, underground, and land, will be transferred directly to Putin's closest allies, the Hawks, the Kovalchuk brothers, specifically to Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin has sent a clear signal to everyone. You can no longer pocket the money for yourselves, only for me. This redistribution of flows in Russia, that's Putin. He simply takes out and destroys those who don't share. Notice, Shoigu didn't share everyone in his chain of command. Timur Ivanov, Shvetsova, absolutely all his deputies, and not just deputies, have been imprisoned. The Minister of Transport and the Rotenberg brothers didn't share it. The Minister of Transport eliminated himself. Recently, the Vice President of Transneft, out of the blue, fell not from his own floor, not from his own apartment. He just fell out of a window. By accident. Now, let's move on. Look, what an interesting situation we have here. Here, I made a note for myself. Colonel General Strigunov, former commander of the National Guard, who was enriching himself, tried to get rich in Siberia by building non-existent training grounds. That's it. Detention center. Arrest and possibly 13 years in prison, if not more. You asked the right question. So is Zolotov next? I don't think Zolotov is next, but it's obvious that this person will give in, will spill everything. This means that Russian generals will be falling and ending up straight in detention, straight in prison. The next person is Arsaunov, former deputy chief of the General Staff of the Russian Federation. 17 years of imprisonment. And this particular guy will directly turn in Gerasimov. If Putin's payback for Kursk has begun, for Kursk, you notice that, right? There was payback for Prigozhin. As part of this payback for Prigozhin, Shoigu was destroyed politically, and we don't know what will happen to him next. Maybe he'll also end up committing suicide somewhere in Odintsovo or somewhere else on Rubliovka, where his house is. Next, in parallel, Prigozhin was eliminated. The people who supported him, General Surovikin, General Spartak, one is in prison, the other is in exile in Africa after being brutally beaten and having all his kidneys and ribs smashed in the FSB basements on Lubyanka. That's it. The story with Prigozhin is over. He gave Prigozhin some time passed, and he finished him off in the sky over Russia. The people who helped Putin organize the elimination of Patrushev have also been neutralized. They're gone. His son oversees food products, agriculture, but Patrushev has vanished. He's now an advisor on shipbuilding, a significant demotion. Now we have transport. Kursk region. Starovoytova is gone. That's all. The former head of the Kursk region. Attention, here's a question. What will happen to General Gerasimov, who not only missed it, but who absolutely knew what the Ukrainian armed forces, Ukrainian intelligence, saboteurs, and partisans on the ground were going to do? Or do we think that Gerasimov is an idiot? He's not an idiot. Even though he's constantly drunk, he's not an idiot. He has satellite communications, he has satellite reconnaissance, he has the aerospace forces, the air force. This is his border area. He understood perfectly well that it wasn't just a concentration of troops. He saw all of it and knew all of it, but he turned a blind eye. Why? He was fed up with Putin. He wanted to remove Putin. He wanted to strike at Putin. And at the same time, together with Shoigu, to steal in Kursk, and he was successfully stealing until Putin started taking everything into his own hands. And then a reboot, the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Energy, all of Russian propaganda, and so on down the list. What are we talking about? I don't know what will happen next, Dasha, but I wouldn't be surprised if General Gerasimov is executed, and publicly at that, so that everyone can see. To set an example, and the rumors have been circulating for a long time, we even discussed this recently, maybe Putin will fire General Gerasimov in the near future. And the fact that it's not just by chance that one of his former friends or former colleagues or some lower ranking former associates have either been imprisoned or eliminated. That was noticeable. So I won't be surprised if Putin destroys Gerasimov publicly.
Yes, you are absolutely right. Putin eliminated the minister. Roman Starovat, Russia's Minister of Transport, is dead. His body was found in the bushes. A bullet in his head, a pistol nearby. The day before, he was fired. Before that, corruption, the border, defense embezzlement. The Kremlin is cracking. And the day before yesterday, they also arrested General Strigunov, Zolotov's deputy. And this isn't a purge, it's an internal war. The Kovalchuks have defeated the Rothenbergs. The new minister is their man. Starovoyt was a Rothenberg man. The elite is being cleaned out. One was removed, another is in pretrial detention. A third fell out of a window. So you think the next cross will fall not on Zolotov, not on Shoigu or Patrushev, but specifically on Gerasimov? That was going to be my next question. Who will bear the next cross?
Gerasimov, for one, because he was involved in all that mess in Kursk and missed it, or maybe he didn't miss it, as I put it, because in my personal opinion, he turned a blind eye to many things. The generals really wanted to harm Putin and the FSB guys, whom they considered to have gotten too arrogant, while the FSB believes that all the generals need to be castrated and everything brought under their control, which, in principle, is what they did by putting Dumin in charge of all the processes in the border regions. Daimon is Putin's bodyguard from the FSO, from the security service, from the FSB's security detail. So, Dasha, here's what else is important. Besides Gerasimov, I think Elvira Sahibzadovna Nabiulina should also expect to be targeted. Of all people, she became extremely tense after the murder of that civilian minister. A minister who was partly responsible for a huge sector of the economy. Do you see what I mean? For the past few months, Nabiulina's position has been increasingly unstable. Who's behind this destabilization? It's the security officials. Sechin, Patrushev, Chemezov, Putin's friends who are shaking things up, and probably the Kovalchuks to some extent as well. And most importantly, it's the Lubyanka TFSB of the Russian Federation that's destabilizing things. They're trying to replace Nabiulina, I've mentioned this to you before, by trying to put in the younger son of Fratkov, the former prime minister of Russia, who also happens to be one of the main security officials in the Russian Federation and a friend of Vladimir Putin. They want to move him from his position as deputy minister of defense, which has already turned into its own cesspool and cash cow the wallet of Vladimir Putin, where all the oversight is not actually in Belousov's hands, but in the hands of Vladimir Putin's niece, Shchastlyva, who acts as the overseer of all the most important processes there. And her husband is the Minister of Energy. The Minister of Energy. Putin controls everything. Propaganda, energy, defense contracts, and now even transportation is in Vladimir Putin's hand. Airports, railways, the metro, public transport, maritime and river transport, all are in Vladimir Putin's hand. Do you see? The transition is beginning. We all used to wonder what kind of transition there would be, whether Putin would be removed. It turns out, on the contrary, Putin calculated everything. First, he reset everyone, then he locked everyone down in Russia, the oligarchs, and anyone who could offer resistance. He expelled some, those who were just dead weight. And now a new stage of the transition is beginning. Now, none of that would be necessary. There will be no elections to the State Duma. Zhuganov will be removed. He's a dead man. Just like after Stalin's 19th Congress, when they finished people off. Now, after the 19th Congress of the Communist Party, someone will just accidentally kick the bucket. There will be nothing. There will be no election. The State Duma will be filled with semi-militarized military types, some half-military guys, hardened killers, who will, without hesitation, do everything Vladimir Putin and his security apparatus tell them to raising their legs instead of their hands, if that's what's ordered. And instead of all these different governments, ministries, and everything else, there will simply be an ordinary apparatus, a Politburo, which will make all the most important decisions, and Putin will stand above them. This is what is happening in Russia right now. The transition has begun. We just don't understand it yet. We haven't fully realized it. Putin is preparing two things. The reformatting of Russia, he said it outright, honestly, Stalinism, through Zyuganov's words. We're heading back to the 1930s and 1940s. Total control, repression, murders, torture, people falling out of windows, the destruction of everything and everyone. And at the same time, simultaneously, there will be terrorist attacks, provocations, and sabotage on Russian territory in order to escalate, expand, and accelerate the war, making it global rather than just regional. That's all there is to it. Two simple plans, all for the sake of holding on to power. I don't know who will be the next to fall out of a window in the Russian Federation, but honestly, I wouldn't even be surprised if one day we wake up and hear the news that Lavrov has been arrested, that Peskov has been imprisoned, that I don't know who Medvedev has supposedly hanged himself, or something else has happened. I really wouldn't be surprised. Or that Shoigu was eliminated somewhere on the streets of Moscow. I wouldn't be surprised. You see, there used to be some rules. First, Putin eliminated, and everyone knew this, the so-called traitors to the mother. Those were the Skripals, Litvinenko, all those security guys, officers who switched sides to another intelligence service and leaked some important information. And Litvinenko, by the way, on top of everything else, why did Putin have him eliminated? Everyone says, pedophilia and all that. No. Litvinenko, through Berezovsky's mediation, once tried to separate the structure from the FSB and had another security agency, while Putin was leading the FSB and then also became secretary of the Security Council. And Berezovsky and Litvinenko were preparing a mini coup d'etat in Russia against Putin. And Putin took revenge on Litvinenko and also on Berezovsky. That's the first story. So he started by eliminating traitors. Then he went after the so-called opposition, but only those top opposition figures who could get a certain share. In terms of percentage, yes, votes that could allow them to gain power or lay claim to power. He killed Nemtsov, he killed Navalny, so to speak, yes. Although, Dasha, I always had a lot of questions about Navalny. But now, Dasha, a new stage is beginning. Now he's ready to kill his own people, supposedly for embezzlement. But in reality, because they don't share. And now imagine how many generals, security officials, ministers, and prime ministers haven't shared over the last 3.5 years of war. Mishustin didn't share. How many governors, mayors, and so on haven't shared? He drowned all of Russia in blood now just to make them share with him. This is a direct signal to me, right on my desk. Bring the money. Now, that's all there is to it. That's all you need to know. Nothing more.
Sasha, that's very telling. Friends, please like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Let us know what you think in the comments. Because Sasha and I work twice a week, especially for our audience, for the audience of my YouTube channel, Dasha Shchastlyva, for the audience of Dmitry Ilyich Gordon. Let us know in the comments what you think of our duo, as they say, our duo. So the fact that General Stribunov, Zolotov's deputy, was arrested, this is a warning sign for Zolotov, because, well, when they arrest Zolotov's deputy...
But he's not a deputy, Dasha. He's the former commander of the National Guard. He's someone who was there before all of this.
So right now, he's not connected to Zolotov, so that the shadow doesn't fall on Zolotov.
I don't think so, because Zolotov is someone whom Putin, well, let's say, doesn't exactly dislike. He's someone who used to be a bodyguard, who helped him for a very long time, helped him back in the Sobchak days and so on. He's an insider. He's someone who, in a very strange, random, bizarre way, ended up near the White House with Yeltsin and guarded Yeltsin. All these security service guys have been helping Putin for a very long time. It was one big special operation to seize power, and those who helped him gain power, he won't touch. Don't think that he'll go after Patrushev. He might demote Patrushev, but he won't go after him. Patrushev helped him seize power in the fall of 1999. First, the operations in all those apartment buildings, Patrushev helped him with many things. With the Argentine cocaine, with Nastya Rybka, with Prigozhin. He owes Patrushev and he owes Zolotov too. But he doesn't owe Gerasimov anything. And as for Shoigu, you can just forget about him. Yes, for now he hasn't touched Shoigu, but he has gone after everyone else connected to Shoigu. They plucked Sergei Kuskotovich like a Chekina man who once had a much higher approval rating than Putin. So I think that we're only at the beginning of all these events, these terrible events in Russia. And, I think to myself, God, how good it is that they still didn't succeed, that their stupid blitzkrieg failed, that Putin's plans collapsed right at the start, and that he got bogged down, that nothing worked out for him, and that he lost right at the beginning of this clash with Ukraine. Because if history had turned out differently, we would already be seeing all of this here, in our own country. And how good it is that this didn't happen. How good it is that the armed forces of Ukraine, the Ukrainian security agencies, the Ukrainian government, and the people all stood their ground.
Sasha, when we see these aviation collapses, panic, stampedes, crowds, and then strikes on the Pacific Fleet, airfields, tankers near St. Petersburg, is this all the beginning of a new phase of the war? So next, ballistic missiles will be flying toward Moscow and St. Petersburg. After this, Ukraine will attack Russia and the occupied territories even more. The Kerch Bridge, because 15 missiles were launched at the Kerch Bridge and so on.
The most important news of the last few hours,
Right.
Trump is giving Ukraine all the weapons.
Thank God.
Maybe Bibi Netanyahu softened him up a bit, When he handed him that letter with the Nobel Prize, I just can't understand how we didn't think of this before. Just write some kind of letter, To whom? Well, maybe it was Bibi Netanyahu who softened him up, or maybe something else happened, or maybe someone under the table kicked him in the leg with something. I don't know what happened, but Trump announced that Ukraine would get absolutely all the weapons it so desperately needs. What does that mean? This means, first of all, that Ukraine will be protected. And on the other hand, the British and the French will help Ukraine get what can already fly to Moscow, to St. Petersburg, and so on. You see, Dasha, the thing is, everyone has clearly seen that Vladimir Putin has no intention of backing down. No intention at all. As everyone has realized well, in Europe, they understood this a long time ago, and in the US, first and foremost, in Washington, and now specifically in the White House, they know that Vladimir Putin doesn't care about anything. Right now, the Europeans are preparing the harshest sanctions of the past 3 years. He doesn't care. According to the latest estimates, over the past 3 years, he has lost 14% of the economy, more than $350 billion. That's an enormous amount of money, and he doesn't care. He's in a recession right now, and he still doesn't care. Why does he need to convert everything from a contract army to mobilization? Why does he need these terrorist attacks to force events? Why does he need all these sensations inside Russia itself? Let me explain. There's no money. The security forces need money. His inner circle needs money. The security apparatus needs money. Those who keep his regime in power, the structures on which Vladimir Putin's regime relies, and if they don't get it, there will be a coup in the Kremlin. They'll take out his security and him along with them as soon as tomorrow. You see? And we'll be waking up, oh, finally, some news from Moscow. But the point is, he'll keep giving them money for as long as it's needed. But where is he supposed to get this money? Let me explain. He needs to redirect the flows. First, he needs to get rid of his ministers who aren't working for the right side and give those positions to people like the Kovalchuks or someone else close to him. The Rotenbergs are close too, but they also play for themselves. But these others share more. Give to his own people. Cancel Abramovich. Why hasn't Abramovich come back in so long? He was in Moscow once recently and quickly left, moving his money out and so on. He's staying in Turkey, staying in the Canaries. So why isn't he coming to Russia? They say Roman Arkadyevich has fallen out of the inner circle, that he's no longer close to Vladimir Putin. The reorientation of wallets has begun in the Kremlin. That's all there is to it. Kirill Dmitriev, the Kovalchuk family. As for Abramovich, it's still unclear what will happen to him next, how Putin actually perceives and evaluates him at this moment. Especially since the poisoning of Roman Abramovich was real, it really happened, and many people know about it. At least those who have certain information. Moving on. Where else can money be taken? Stir up trouble with Azerbaijan and completely redirect all Azerbaijani money, the money of Azerbaijani billionaires who miraculously are somehow strangely and curiously connected to transport logistics, including oil and the oil industry, which, by the way, is now being massively thrown out the window. Do you understand? To redirect Azerbaijani flows to their own people, to their comrades, while quarreling with Aliyev and publicly tearing up napkins. That's what's happening right now. No one can quite understand Vladimir Putin. For him, money is power and power is money. That's the equation. And now, let's draw a conclusion. Vladimir Putin is all about money, purely about money. Everything else is just for show, just propaganda. He's all about the cash. And now he sent a clear signal to the entire elite, hurry up and share with me. Nothing under the table, nothing in the banks, put it all on my desk, everything into my banks. That's it. These are his problems as he sees it, not Russia's. He's the one with less money now. And if there's less money, then you shouldn't be eating at his expense. Give everything to me. I need it more.
Sasha, what do you think? Republicans claim that according to their information, things have started moving. And according to their sources, Trump not only intends to increase aid to Ukraine, but he has also given Senator Lindsey Graham the green light to start the voting procedure on sanctions against Russia. And that's already a really tough blow. Let's discuss this.
At the end of July, there will be hellish sanctions. They will come out after the holidays. The senators and congressmen, tanned and well-rested, will vote for a hellish package of sanctions against Russia. Now the Europeans will vote on oil, financial and banking sectors. Then the Americans will vote and finish it off. Do you think this will change anything for Putin? But of course, the war will become an extraordinarily expensive pleasure for him. And then he'll have to make some very unpopular decisions. What do I mean by that? Abandoning the contract army, switching to a mobilization model. That means terrorist attacks across the country. That means purges in the general staff, showy purges in the general staff. But his own people will be unhappy. His own circle will be dissatisfied, and their money will be disappearing. That's why there's a high probability and threat of a coup in Russia. And he knows this perfectly well. It's frightening for him. A coup understands that it's a threat to him and his closest circle. And in fact, he's not confident in his inner circle. But Trump, of course, he has no other choice. The man called Putin 6 times. Each time, he was sent further and further away. But to be brushed off on US Independence Day and then brazenly told, I created America? Excuse me. Do you understand? I mean, he basically wet his pants and then slapped Trump in the face with those underwear, right in front of all the cameras, in front of the whole world. Everyone saw it. Trump is a weakling. This is the man who made 3 holes in Iran, an underground nuclear facility. The one who destroyed, who struck Syria, hit Putin's troops, hit Prigozhin's men, who launched tomahawks. Is he going to tolerate that? No, he won't. Ukraine will get everything. Russia will get sanctions. And then we'll see. But I know for sure that as soon as these sanctions are imposed, the countdown will begin. That's the first thing. Second, it will speed up the end of the war. And third, it will mean that for Putin, the war will become an extraordinarily expensive pleasure. And what will he do then if it becomes such an expensive, extraordinarily expensive pleasure? He will destroy his own people, take their money, and create total poverty in Russia, taking everything from civilians, from the population. And what will the people do when the last of their possessions is taken from them? Will they get down on their knees or will they rise up and revolt? So we'll see whether the deep Russian people still have any fight left in them or not in the coming weeks or months.
Sasha, just to wrap up, let me recall one thing. August is the main month for the Russian Federation. Destruction. Come on, August is almost here. We're already at the 8th of July. The 8th of July. August is just around the corner. And considering what you just said, our strikes on airfields, on infrastructure, the sanctions, what awaits Putin in August?
The scariest month for Russia and I think for Putin as well. All these problems always happen in August. Kursk, the first Kursk, the second Kursk, and many other things, crisis wars, the Georgian story too, yes, among others. But you know, Dasha, I truly think this might indeed be the very last summer, not necessarily the final summer of this ongoing war, but it could very well become the ultimate summer for this current regime. There are essentially 2 primary options here. Either Putin's oppressive regime will inevitably collapse, and we will undoubtedly witness this significant event unfold very, very soon. Or it will simply be very harshly restructured. And we will witness we will see a situation worse than under Stalin. For some reason, I think they are preparing for this plan B. And the task for everyone, absolutely everyone from the United States and beyond, is to make sure that Putin has no plan B left. And I think that is what they will be working on now. And as for the fact that there will be strikes, that there will be both Ukrainian and Western ballistic missiles, that there will be sanctions, and that there will be mass defenestrations in Moscow, in St. Petersburg, and all over Russia, and that he will destroy his own population, carry out mass sabotage, terrorist attacks, explosions, and destruction within the Russian Federation. To me, these things are obvious. My forecast for Russia is grim, but Putin made this choice himself. The problem is that the Russian people have largely accepted this choice. Let them now bear responsibility not only for their choice, but also for their own lives.
Friends, our tandem Sasha plus Dasha, Dasha plus Sasha is working on my YouTube channel, Dasha Shchastlyva, and on Dmitry Gordon's YouTube channel. We work for you twice a week. So write a few warm or tough words to our tandem. We will read everything. I always read the comments and leave hearts. Let us know where you're watching us from, your location. It's very important to us. Top analyst Oleksandr Demchenko appears twice on my YouTube channel. Sasha, thank you so much and see you next week. Oh, wait, this Sunday. Sorry, forgive me, this Sunday. Yes.
Thank you, Dasha. Thank you to our most beloved, most valued audience. See you next time. Bye.